What does it take to be a successful entrepreneur? A dangerous amount of coffee and a ton of grit. My name is Jason Tracy, and every week I interview business leaders to share their stories, life lessons, failures, and advice with you. Welcome to Coffee and Grit. Let's go. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Grit. Because after all, we are a collection of the stories we are told and the stories we tell ourselves. Think about that for a minute. So has anybody ever went to, and this is a good example of what I'm talking about, has anybody ever went to an event, or maybe you've been a speaker at an event and only a couple people showed up? I had this time, I started my business and I was probably, a few months in, and I had this big event I did with the chamber. It was advertised at the chamber. I put it out on social media everywhere, and a bunch of people signed up. And then the day of, everybody canceled out, and there's only one person that showed up. And I was going through this kind of like pity party of like almost, it's like not even almost, I was embarrassed. I'm like, I'm going to show up and there's going to be this one person there. I'm going to walk in, and I've like been hyping this up, and it's a failure, right? And so I'm starting to tell myself this story of I'm not successful, and it's going to appear this way. And then I instantly started asking myself, if I feel this way, am I going to give this person that showed up and paid their money the best value? If I'm in a pity party and I'm like, I'm worthless and stuff like that, this is going to be a horrible event, and that one person is going to have a horrible experience, right? And so instead, I started thinking about what could I do to really just give this person an incredible experience. And I showed up, and I worked with an amazing person, and we poured into her, and I explained to her, just like, you get the benefits of getting a one-on-one coaching session for the price of a group coaching session. And we treated it like that, and we broke through some really awesome barriers. We cried together, and then she ended up becoming a full-time one-on-one client that I worked with for a whole entire year. And so that one thing, if I would have kept with the narrative that I'm a failure and that I should probably just cancel this event, I would have gotten nothing out of it. And so just similar. So I went to a marketing mashup, chamber marketing mashup. This was not last month, but the month before. And I showed up, and I thought I must have had the time wrong. I must have had the date wrong. I showed up, there was one car there, and I go in, and the only person's there is Julianne Williams, the organizer of the event. And so we're sitting and talking, and the next thing I know, Carol Kremer comes in, and we start talking. And then, a couple other people showed up, and I think we maybe only had like 5 or 6 people there, but it was really, really awesome because we got to go much deeper than, and I'm going to turn over here. We got to go much deeper, I feel, than if there would have been a whole group there. And from that, I was able to reach out, and me and Carol have been able to work together and, get to know each other really, really well. And so I'm excited to have Carol on show and talking about, she's a new business owner here in Brighton, new to the community, and what's so awesome is she's making such an impact already. I see her everywhere. I have just the other day, somebody referred you to me, and I was like, that's so amazing. Carol is everywhere. So Carol, welcome to the Coffee and Grit. Welcome to the community. It's been so awesome getting to know you.
Thank you. It's so great to be here. Thank you for inviting me to be on your podcast. I'm excited.
It's about, having difference makers on, and I know what you're doing is making a difference in people's lives. So can you talk to us a little bit about what's your business and how you're impacting people?
So I'm a licensed acupuncturist. I've been practicing for about 10 years, and I help people live pain-free lives. That's my goal, is really to help people understand that they don't have to be in pain. That there are options, and that acupuncture is an amazing option.
I love how you said that, and like, it's an option, because there's something you told me early on in our conversations that just really stood out, in that while there's so many options, that they're out there to relieve people of pain. And I think the first thing that we get prescribed is a whole drawer full of medications, right?
Right.
But you had said acupuncture is often the last resort, the last option.
Yes.
With the longest lasting, the best results.
Yes. Most of my patients come to me after they've tried everything else. They've been, they've tried the medications, they've tried physical therapy, they've tried massage therapy, they've tried really surgery, everything. And they haven't gotten lasting relief. So I really am more often than not, I would say probably 80 to 90% of my patients, I really am the last resort. And it's really, it's so gratifying to me to be able to help people. You know, they come to me and they've mustered hope one last
One last
time,
time.
one last time, and you know, to be able to you know, to help and to live up to that hope is really, I mean, it's why I do what I do.
It's got to be incredible because you
Yeah.
talk about it. It's not easy to muster hope. And I've met people that have been in chronic pain and they've tried
Oh
everything,
yeah.
right? And they're like,
Yeah.
they don't have that hope or even belief that that one extra thing they'll try because
Yeah.
they've tried everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. I you know, I'm just thinking of, you know, so many different stories that I have and so many different people. So one story I think I've shared with you is a young mother, and she had 3 kids and young children, and she had woken up with a headache every single day for 5 years. Every single day she had a headache all day. She had been to pain clinics, she'd been to Chicago, she'd been to doctors, and no one could tell her even what was wrong, to be able to resolve it. So she had been through all the medications, and you know, once she came to me as the very last her last resort. And you know, through a series of treatments, we treated her for a couple of months. We did acupuncture, we did Chinese herbal medicine, and she got to the point where she was headache free. And I just saw her just this last summer, and her eyes were bright. I mean, she looked like a completely different person. She was a completely different person, and you know, it was just really nice. You know, we helped her, but we also, you know, we gave the kids their mom
Yes.
back.
There was an episode a year or so ago, and I had a former client of mine, Mike Eller, on, and he was talking about the impact of people that you take care of, and he was sort of referring to like employees, for example. But somebody had pointed out to him the magnitude of when you impact one person, how many actual lives that you're impacting. And I think of that every time we think about impacting a person.
Yeah,
You have this mother that has just 3 immediate people.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
going to see her in you know,
yeah,
she's going to impact them in a totally different way.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Um, Yeah, there was another young woman who she hadn't slept for 5 years. You know, once again, I was the absolute last resort. She had problems getting to sleep. She was actually in the medical industry, so she had access. She had done sleep clinics. She had done all of the medications, all of the supplements, and you know, even still with everything that she was taking, it would still take her 3 to 4 hours every single night to get to sleep.
Mm.
And I mean, that impacts somebody every single day, every single person they meet, their work, their job, their family, their friends. And
Just the
yeah.
lack of sleep
Oh, yeah.
alone will
Oh,
impact
yeah.
somebody dramatically.
Oh, yeah.
And then the cause of the reason why they're not getting any sleep, that's
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
drastic.
Yeah. The doctors had told her, oh, well, you know, um, there are just some people who never will sleep, and you're probably just one of them. So, um, and I mean, that's a devastating thing to hear. Um, So yeah, she came to us, and within a couple of months, once again, acupuncture, Chinese herbal medicine, we were getting her to, she was sleeping. And you know, just those simple things that it just amazes me how, you know, I walk through life, and especially being in this career now, you know, I really have kind of an inside. I see how much people are suffering, and how people don't show it in their day to day life. Like,
Mhm.
we just have absolutely no idea how much people really do suffer, because they, you know, they just go about their lives, and they work through it.
Mental note, I have to refer you to somebody because I have a friend that goes through and she has just she's had massive like headaches that doesn't go away. And then I just recently heard from her husband that she has now lost her hearing on one
Oh
side.
gosh.
And I can't believe I haven't thought about her before, but just thinking about this, like
Yeah.
she performs at a high level in what she does. She has, I believe they have 7 kids. So she's a
Oh
mom that's doing all these activities. She's always busy. She has her own
yeah.
business. Like her husband has his business, and so they're always busy. You would not know what she's going through on a daily
Yeah.
basis. What
Yeah.
could she do if she was relieved
Oh
from,
my gosh. Yeah.
even we talk the percentages, like
Oh yeah.
40%?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'd have to feel like the weight of the world off your shoulders.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So what led you to acupuncture and Chinese medicine?
It's been a long journey with twists and turns.
Yeah.
I would say I love learning. I've always been fascinated with science and the human body. And, um, you know, I had my first acupuncture treatment. I loved it. I couldn't believe how much relief I got. I went for stress and shoulder and neck pain. I was working in the corporate world and I was working for a startup
I got neck
company.
pain just talking about the corporate world just now. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and it was a startup, so, working 60 hours a week. And I was just amazed at what it did. And it took me a long time to be able to get to the point where I could quit my job, go back to school full time. It took a long time. I was terrified of needles. So that was a big, a big hurdle to overcome.
Talk about jumping straight into the fire.
Exactly. um, so yeah, I was in my 40s, had gone through, I was going through a divorce. Was going through a move. My job, while I really, there were so many aspects of it that I really loved and I learned so much. Part of it though, my soul was dying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I just, my both of my parents had major health issues. My mom passed away. My dad passed away. I'm like, you know what? Life is too short. And so in my 40s, I quit my job, quit my good corporate job, went back to school full time, and just made the change, made the switch.
That's so cool that you think about. There's so many people, and again, the stories we tell ourselves, right? That I'm too old to do this, or I'm never going to be able to make a switch or a change. And that's the reason why I even do this whole entire show, is for people to hear stories of it's never too late. You never know anybody's story in their journey.
Mm-hmm.
I think people meeting you would assume that you've done this for your whole career. And to hear that, really you had all these things that just change, and it's
Yeah.
time to change,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and you're able to create your new life.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just one of those things that I couldn't stop thinking about it. I couldn't stop thinking about what my life could be like if I made this change, even though it was a complete 180. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
And what did you do in
yeah.
the corporate world?
I was a project manager. I'm a certified project manager. I did internal communications.
Nothing like
Just the
acupuncture.
No, but when I was working, I found the most gratifying parts of my day were really those one-on-one conversations with coworkers.
Uh-huh.
When, if, I was struggling with something or they were struggling with something, or, those really, I found that those ended up being the most important parts of my day. Meeting the deadlines, getting the communication out, getting the next, tick on the project schedule. Those were important, of course, but the things that really drove me were those one-on-one interactions and really helping people. And yeah, so I wanted to do more of that.
It's really cool. You found a way to take those things that you really enjoyed out of the job that you had
Hmm.
and made it really the centerpiece of your new career.
Hmm. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's phenomenal. Um, so you'd mentioned too, because there are so many, I think so many, when we talk about people in pain, there's so many people are in pain in so many different areas. And I know you've talked a lot about neck or back, and I think those are probably the common ones.
Hmm.
But I love, you shared a story with me on how really like one of the ways that it impacted you that I think can impact a lot of women
Hmm.
that people don't even think about.
Yeah, one of the things that Chinese medicine is so outstanding with is women's health, and really the entire lifespan of women's health. From puberty through childbearing years, and then also through menopause. Really, acupuncture and Chinese medicine excels helping women through the menopausal transition. Um, from a Western medicine perspective, there just isn't really a lot. But from our perspective, we can really help ease that.
I love it. Was one of the last times we talked about how there really isn't a lot of support,
Mhm.
and a lot for that. And my wife she just turned 40 and she has this on her mind a
Yeah,
lot. And so when you
yeah,
start talking about it, it instantly identified with me of,
yeah,
I think we should talk about it more, in the sense
yeah,
of,
yeah.
because I think there are people out there that have those same concerns.
Yeah, it's a transition, and I think so many women we're told or we believe the stories that we tell ourselves that it's that it's a bad transition and that it's something to be hidden and something to be we're supposed to put it off and
Is there a certain level of shame that kind of carries with that
yeah,
too?
yeah, the youth culture. I think there's a way that we don't allow ourselves um, to transition gracefully, and not just that major transition, but really every transition in life. Life doesn't stay the same. It's our lives are change,
Yeah.
and yeah, and Chinese medicine, acupuncture, we recognize that we work with transition and change. That's the basis of our medicine is those changes. Um, yeah, so I've helped a lot of women through that. One of the things that really resonated with me, a way to look at that, when we go through puberty, we're kind of drunk on hormones.
Yeah.
Our body is flooded with the hormones, and as we go through menopause, it's a withdrawal. So we're going through those withdrawal symptoms, and sort of framing it in that way helped me make sense of those symptoms a little bit more. And yeah, it just yeah, and like I said, Chinese medicine and acupuncture really can help smooth that out.
Son, I know you've said this in the other podcast, but what exactly is acupuncture?
So acupuncture, we're using the pins to communicate with the brain to increase blood flow to and really any area of the body that we want to. So when we bring increased blood flow to an area, we're bringing oxygen, we're bringing nutrients, and we're helping the cells eliminate waste. And when we do that, we're eliminating inflammation. And we know that inflammation is a root cause of so many issues in the body. And if you can really get that under control, the body knows what to do, the body knows how to heal itself. You just have to get everything out of the way.
I think that's kind of a trend lately that we're hearing a lot. I think more than what we used to about inflammation and how it's really the cause of so many of our problems and so many of our issues.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And acupuncture excels at that. That's one of the things that we excel at. And then of course, we're working with all the different systems of the body. So we're helping balance hormones, we're working with the immune system, we're working with the digestive system, the liver system. We're looking at the way all of the organs communicate with each other. So I'm more interested, I guess, in the spaces in between. I'm more interested in how things are functioning together. So if you're having digestive issues, I'm not just going to look at your digestion.
Yeah.
I'm going to look at everything that supports that digestion. Or if you're having, lung issues, I'm going to look at your digestion. I'm going to look at your liver. I'm going to look at all of the organs to see which organs are not functioning properly, and we're going to support those organs. And then the whole system comes back online.
I love that because I think whether in health or just universally, we always look for that surface issue. I have a headache. I'm going to take an aspirin or whatever for my head, or you're rubbing your head area, but it's most likely coming from a completely different area. I was having tight back issues, where I go to stand up from my chair because I've been sitting there all day and I'm like feeling like I'm 90, having to stretch my back out. And I'm
Mhm.
looking up exercises to do my back. I'm like touching my toes. I'm doing these things like that I think would be for that would solve that. And really it's in my hips.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
I'm trying to solve something, and I've been doing this for a long time, and not figuring out why I wasn't making any progress. That
Yeah.
it's so funny
Yeah.
because the internet's there. I could have looked this up a long time ago, but then I find these stretches, and it's like all hip and lower body. And since I've been doing them, not only am I not stiff when I stand up after sitting for a long time or just period, but just my athleticism, my speed, like
Yeah.
I'm guarding people in their 20s and keeping up with them.
Nice.
Right. It's been amazing. So I now swear by my stretching routine that I do every single day because it's literally, it's keeping me feeling young.
Yeah. 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 And that, if somebody comes to me with ankle pain or foot pain or knee pain, I'm also going to treat their back because everything is connected. If somebody has shoulder pain, I'll treat their ankle because everything is connected.
Awesome. So what's the process like so if somebody's listening and they're going through menopause, for example, what do they do?
So the first step is an initial consultation, and that's where I'll look at the person's health history. You'll fill out a questionnaire. We'll look at your health history, and that's going to give me a lot of clues as to which organ systems are not functioning as well as they could be. And then you'll come in for the initial consultation. We'll go over your goals. I'll find out what's important to you, and that's what we'll work on. And then I'll give you my best recommendation for a treatment plan.
And I know, so when we talk about the recommendation for treatment plans, it's, not one size fits all. How do you go through and evaluate and understand how long, what somebody's individual treatment plan would look like?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So there are a couple of different things that we look at. The first thing we look at is the person's age. That's going to be a determining factor of how quickly your body responds and how well your body is able to heal from a dysfunction. So we look at your age. We look at how long the condition has been going on. If something's been going on for 25 years, it may not take us 25 years to solve it, but it's going to take longer than something that's been going on for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So we look at that. We look at if there are systemic issues that may be hindering your progress. So if somebody comes in with neck pain, but they have, autoimmune conditions, they have, arthritis, they have, these systemic things, healing is going to take a little bit longer. So we look at all of those different things, and that's why everybody is different, because we all have a different combination of these things going on. So from that perspective, I mean, and something that's easier to resolve, you might be in treatment for a month, 6 weeks. Something that's been going on for 25 years, somebody's a little bit older, a lot of other health conditions going on, it could take 3 to 6 months before we start to see some really significant change. So it just depends.
I like that because, a lot, I think, again, universally, it's one size fits all that we look at. And you see people that are like, oh, my so-and-so has a 401k plan, and they go into their financial advisor and want the same thing. And I think health is the same thing. I heard so-and-so went on this diet, or so-and-so did acupuncture and they only had to do this many treatments and it worked for them. Or they, I love how you have really an awesome, that's a great visual of how that process works out and how everybody is completely different.
Yeah. And I mean, I've been surprised before, sometimes I've had people come in and be like, oh, this is a slam dunk.
Yeah.
This is going to be so quick. It's going to be so easy. And it ends up, it's not. And then somebody else will come in, with, I had a patient recently who, had an older person, had done construction their whole life, and had shoulder and neck pain. I mean, you can imagine that person is really had a lot of wear and tear on their body. And, they came in and they were like, well, you fixed me. There's no way. Really? So, when people ask me how long it's going to take, they're really, I honestly say there really is no way for me to know until I start treating you. There just isn't.
Yeah. Because everybody's body is different.
It really is. It really is.
You told me one recently, a newer patient that was able to go home and actually sleep for the first time. And it's just sometimes little things I would imagine are just monumental.
Yeah. I hear that often with patients, no matter what I'm treating. Improved sleep is usually a side effect of acupuncture and Chinese medicine. Improved improved digestion. I'm thinking about a patient recently who came in for low back pain, had, chronic condition. We were working with that. And I don't know, she had mentioned headaches, but, it was secondary. Like I said, I always focus on the person's most important thing. And the headaches were just kind of a secondary issue, kind of like, oh, if you can get to it, that would be great. So we were about, 6 weeks or so, 6 weeks, 2 months into treatment. And she said, she goes, I was taking injections for my headaches and I decided, I wasn't having any headaches. So I decided not to do my injection. She's like, I haven't had a headache in months. So, I mean, we
Wow.
weren't even we
Yeah.
weren't even working on that, and she had an amazing result. So that just really reinforces to me how everything in the body's connected. So it really is impossible for me to only treat one thing.
It'd be impossible to tell somebody the results they're going to get because there could be so many things that you're solving that you could never even imagine.
Yeah,
And
right.
I'd have to imagine that happens a lot because a lot of that stuff is side effects to whatever the main root issue is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, and once you clear the body, once you um, clear the pathways and establish the new pathways, the body knows what to do. I was describing it to somebody the other day. I like to think of it, the body is a garden, and we're trying to plant a flower, so we don't concentrate on that flower. What we do is we concentrate on the soil and everything around it. So first we need to clear out all the weeds. First we need to clear everything out. Then we need to make sure that the irrigation is proper, that the moisture, the water is getting to the right place at the right time so that there isn't an area of the garden that's too dry or an area that's too damp. So we try to make sure then all of that is. Then we start to nourish the soil. Then we start to put fertilizer in it. We don't put fertilizer in it while the weeds are still there because then we're fertilizing the weeds. So there's a very set process that we go through when we're working with the body to heal the body. So once you do that, then of course, we can plant any flower in the garden.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is because the soil is there and it's ready to go.
I love that analogy. That makes so much sense. And I think there's so many of us that just go and like focus on the flower. I'm going to put the flower in,
Yeah, yeah,
not thinking about the other things to make that flower
yeah,
thrive.
yeah, yep, exactly.
That's a powerful visual. So what's it like moving into a new community?
I've been coming here for 25 years. My sister and her family are here, so I've loved this area for a long time, and it's been fantastic. I've joined the chamber, and I've met so many amazing people through the chamber, and everyone has been so kind and welcoming, and it's just been a really great move.
It's really an awesome community to come
Mhm.
into. We moved here 14 years ago, and it was just going to be like a maybe quick stop. We didn't know how long, and
Mhm.
just fell in love with everything here.
Yeah.
But then when you get in the business community, this is just amazing people here that want to
Yeah.
see you succeed.
Yeah, yeah. It's been amazing.
That's
I'm
cool.
very grateful to be here.
Yeah, so chamber, and now you're in CirrusNet, which
Yeah.
is awesome. Steve gets a shout out every episode, so we have to give him a shout
Oh.
out. He's hiking somewhere, I'm sure, nice and tropical while we're freezing. So
Yeah, that sounds
go you, Steve,
great.
you rock. But it's so awesome. Again, being in this community, and you can come in and make an impact really quickly because I think the community and the places are set up right. And I think any community, somebody could go in and thrive, but it's actually taking the steps out there and going out there and doing it, like
Mhm.
going out. And so I applaud you for coming in, being new to a community, and just going out there and doing it.
Thank you. Yeah. And this is definitely out of my comfort zone. I am definitely an introvert. So, going to the events, yeah, I walk into every event terrified. but everybody it just puts me at ease so quickly. And it's really It's really
I remember
good.
you asked me the other day, I was like, is there a point when people come in that you don't want to like throw up? I don't know. I don't know if you're something like that, but it is, it's like working out. It's like a muscle. And as you do it, I don't know if I shared this with you. In my very first time, somebody told me I needed to go to a chamber meeting, like a networking meeting. I, I got there early and I'm like, oh, I'm really early. So I drove around. And I drove around for about 30 minutes until I was about then 10 minutes late. And then I pulled in the parking lot and I'm like, well, now I'm late and I'm going to be that guy. No, I'm just going to go home. And so I went home, like, so to put yourself out there, being introverted, naturally in being scared, again, taking the steps and doing it, you never know what's out there. You never know who's going to catch you in your tribe becomes, right?
Yeah.
So until you do it.
Yeah. Right.
Finally,
Right.
I conquered that fear and I did it. And it's realizing it's not as bad as what I had pictured it to be. And actually, I kind of like this thing.
Yeah. Somebody said something the other day, I read something the other day that resonated. And it's just basically, you just have to do it scared.
Yes.
That's just kind of my mantra. It's like, Carol, you're just going to do it scared.
That may be in the running for show headline title. I think that's entrepreneurship, though. In order to go out there and start a business, like you're probably running scared at least in the beginning, probably for a while,
Yeah.
Because there's always going to be stuff that you've got to do that puts you in your on comfort zone.
For sure.
But that's where the growth is at. Like,
yeah. I think at some points I could stand for the growth to slow down a little bit.
Put the brakes on.
At some point I'm grown enough.
Do we need any more growth today?
No, I don't think so. Just kidding, of course.
It's funny. It's one of those things. It's like the stories we tell ourselves, right? And so, like when I used to get really nervous speaking in front of groups or going in front of and somebody told me once that there's a very your brain doesn't really know the difference between fear and excitement. And so instead of being like, oh, I'm so nervous, I've got so much anxiety, I've got so much fear of going and speaking in front of a crowd, it's like, I'm so excited to be here. And how much is that vibe different?
Yeah.
I'm so excited to get in front of this group.
Yeah.
Like I get the opportunity to be, and so like it's just shifting that energy and shifting that story that we tell ourselves. And it's like, as you're out and you're kind of building, it's like, oh, I had 4 people call today. How cool is that?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. It's definitely that shifting that perspective.
Have you read the book The Alchemist? Have I asked you this?
I haven't.
Okay. You haven't read it either?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Really, really awesome book. And it's just really about chasing your dreams. The pretense of the book is when you go out and chase your dreams, that the universe conspires to help you. And I know for me, I had to be pushed out of the plane. So I applaud you for starting a business. I literally wanted to start my business for a long time, but it was that fear of how do I replace my income? How do I do these things? And my boss, Debbie Allen, who was amazing, saw this and we had conversation. She literally took the opportunity to push me out of the plane and threw a parachute down to help me out. But I had to be kicked out of that. And then getting there and just learning all the things that I had to do. There's a lot of fear that goes into that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But then like, as I'm doing it, there's so many amazing people that came along the way that gave me something, whether they knew it or not. Whether they took me under their wing or they gave me an opportunity, they put, there's so many people that came along and they were like the wind beneath my wings, almost. And I'm like going to bust into song now. So like, but like they come along and they carry you. So it's like the universe conspires. When you go out and you do that thing that's scary, if you're receptive to it, the people are around to help you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the key too, though, for me, that's always hard for me is to actually ask for the help.
Yeah,
that's one thing that I struggle with. I feel like I have to do everything on my own and by myself. So that's definitely something that I'm working on always working on.
Yep. That's a fun one. And as you grow your team,
Mhm.
you'll, setting up now, setting up
Mhm.
what do you love to do that you have to do,
Yeah.
right? Like if
Yeah.
you don't do this, the business isn't going to exist, but you love to do it.
Yeah.
They're the things that you don't like to do, but you have to do right now. Those are the
Mhm.
things that when you get people, you give them that stuff,
Yeah.
the stuff that you hate and that you're
Yeah.
not good at.
Yeah.
And then there's the stuff that, there's another quadrant, but anyways, breaking
Yeah.
it down and then being able to give that off to people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you stay in your area where your zone of genius.
Yeah. Yes.
So what is next? What are you working on right now?
um, so really right now is just building the business.
Yeah.
Just, getting the building up the patient base, and then I'll be hiring soon. And yeah, I mean that's the
How long did
goal.
you so you got certified and everything, and then did you work for somebody else for a while?
I did when I first graduated. I was in Toledo, Ohio, and I actually worked at two different places. I worked at an upscale spa, and then a couple of days a week, and then I also worked at an acupuncture and Chinese herbal medicine clinic. So that was a fantastic kind of incubation for me because I saw two, up close. I saw two really different types of businesses,
Yeah.
and I feel like I've been able to take those things that I really loved about both of those businesses, and now I'm making my own. So that was an invaluable learning experience. I had the corporate background, but the small business is very different,
Very.
very different.
And that's what I was wondering how, because there's a huge difference from that corporation to how a small business operates. And
Yeah.
so it's like learning that, or just being able to see it.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things that I do miss about, being in the corporate is, I could call if I had a legal question, I would just call the legal department. If I had a risk management question, I just call the risk management department. If I needed some collateral, I'd call the graphics department. And now I am I'm everything. There's nobody to call.
I know it'd be so nice to have a graphics department,
Oh
and like all
yeah,
that, the legal.
exactly. The legal department, the IT department.
I know for me starting out too, it was like I had a team, I had, departments and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
so now all of a sudden that was all on me.
Yeah.
And learning how to take care of that. Because again,
Yeah.
you have your main function of your
Hmm.
business that
Hmm.
you're doing.
Yeah. 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 And so that's so that's where I, like branching out and finding those support, those external support teams
Yep.
to help with those things, because you can't do everything. You can't be an expert in everything.
Yeah.
You can't.
I don't want to be an expert in my finances as far as like all the books and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, you have to have, at least for me, I feel like I need to have a good understanding of
Oh,
it.
for sure. Yep. Yep. Yep.
You have to know enough to be able to ask the right questions of the experts.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
But learning all the codes and everything
oh,
else is a completely different thing.
right. Exactly.
Yeah, no, you have to understand your numbers and know, what you need, or
Hmm.
you say if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't know, it's very easy for somebody to
Right.
tell you it's all great or not.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. So that's, I mean, the that part of it is fun though. I do enjoy the business side of it. Um, so yeah, so I am enjoying that part of it.
yeah. How about the like you talked about like the being introverted and stuff like that. Like when you go out to these events, how do you eventually once you get out there, how do you enjoy it?
I do. I do. I usually try to find, one or two people and
Yeah.
it seems like every single event I always do. There's always, one or two people where you can kind of have that conversation, and and that's one of the things that I really like about this community is that everybody's really welcoming. And
Yeah.
it's easy to talk to people.
It's easy. And I asked that
Mhm.
question specifically because I think, people that are introverted, and I talked about my story of like driving around, um, it can be you can have a lot of nerves going in. And then I've walked in and it feels like people are, maybe they already know each other. They've seen each other at all these events. They have their circles and it's really hard to bust in. But I love how you said like going and meeting other people that maybe not are in the circles.
Mhm.
That was one of the first
Yeah.
things I did, is found the people that are against the wall and
Yeah.
then like form my own circles.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember I had a kid that my son had played football with. His mom was telling me about how he had moved he was new to the school, and she was asked him, like, have you made friends? How you doing? He was like, oh yeah, I'm the most popular kid here. And she was like, how'd that happen? He was like, well, I just went around and I started sitting with all the other kids that weren't sitting with anybody. And then I said, hey, we should just get our own table. And so now I have this big table that we all like hang
I
out. And it's
love
like,
that.
that's a really cool story of
Yeah,
how
I
he
love
brought
that.
in. But there
Yeah.
are so many other people that are feeling just like you. It's like the other animals are just as scared than us than what we are of them. Like it's the same. That's exactly it.
Yeah.
I think we're all in our heads to a
Mhm.
degree. And like when people tell me they don't remember people's names, it's because we're thinking of what we're gonna say next most of the
Mhm.
time.
Yeah.
We're thinking of how we're gonna look and stuff. So we don't hear that person even saying what their name is,
Mhm.
and we miss it.
Yeah.
So it's not because of our memory. It's because we're in our head.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's remembering that when you're out at an event, that even probably the person that's been at the event over and over again is in their head.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a
It's like picturing
good thing to
everybody in their
remember.
underwear, but
Yeah.
it literally is like, SiriusNet, for example. There was somebody in our group that I think attended as a guest a year or so ago and was talking about how they were so nervous to do their member minute and how everybody gave like these expert things and like shouted a couple people out, and I was one of them. And I was like, you don't understand how nervous I am before that minute. Like and that sounds funny because it may not appear that way, but like
Mhm.
a minute makes me hyperventilate. Like give me 30 and I'll be fine. A minute, I've got to like squeeze it in a minute. And so I'm like trying to, I could help you all day. To do my own is like so hard. And like, and then Steve will always wait for me to do, I'm calling it out right now. He always like calls on me last. And so it's like, I'm sitting there like, waiting the whole entire time, and then I'm the last one to do the member minute. And so it's like, so it's like
Mhm.
we all have that little bit
Yeah.
of nervousness, and it's
Yeah.
just, but once you go through it,
Mhm.
people don't even realize it.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Like when the way you cure yourself, I wouldn't realize that you're nervous going into an event.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah. I think it was I was a singer when I
Yeah,
was so I had I my undergraduate degree is vocal performance. So, I was on stage a lot. So I think I know how to hide it for
yeah.
the most part. But oh my gosh, it's still there.
Tell me more about
It's
that. Like
still
you're
every
singing, and
single
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah. Every
Oh,
single
every single time. Yeah. So I loved singing, and I was in high school did all the musicals and got to college and the same thing. And I studied opera, vocal performance. I quickly realized that I didn't love opera, and to be an opera singer, I mean,
You've got to love it.
you have to love it.
I would have to
And
imagine you have to. Anything you do, you have to love in order to be
yeah,
really good at it.
yeah, and I just didn't have that love. Um, so I joined a band, like a top 40 cover band, and that was back when all the bars and they had live music.
Yeah.
So we played 5-6 nights a week, and I did that for a couple of years. That's how I put myself through my first graduate degree through grad school. And I actually played in Howell. We played in Howell.
That's awesome.
That was one of the places. I forget the name of it. I think they've since torn the building down, but it was right off the exit, right off Pinckney Road in 96. But yeah, I mean, I loved it. It was fun. And then, real life comes along, and I have to get a real job.
That is so cool. You had that opportunity though
Yeah.
to form a band, and
Yeah, it was fun. It really was. It was a lot of fun.
How
It was
different
great to
was
do.
opera music to doing top 40 music?
You know, my voice teacher from college, she did come to see the band one time, and I was a little like, really, you want to come in and hear them? But you know, I mean, the vocal technique is the same. You know, I mean, you have to be able to have a good technique, no matter what type of music you're singing. It's just a little bit of a different, you know, different placement, different. So it's yeah, it's not that different.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool. It's like I'd love to hear. I'd love to hear you perform sometime. So that's awesome. What is You've told me a couple stories. What is another one of your favorite stories of somebody you've impacted through acupuncture?
Um,
Not from the opera singing.
Not from the opera. I had a patient. This was recently. She was a college athlete and had been diagnosed with endometriosis, and that's just a really painful, you know, very painful condition for women. And it often takes years before they actually get a diagnosis. I mean, just you know. Throughout the month, just painful periods, excruciating, you know. But she was high functioning athlete, high functioning, you know, academics, and we were able to get her just with Chinese herbal medicine. We were able to get her to the point where she's out of pain, and it took a couple of months, but I mean, it was really pretty miraculous. And I just spoke with her recently, and she's still doing great. It's been a couple years.
That's
So,
amazing.
yeah, yeah,
Can we talk about the impact of
yeah.
people's day-to-day lives?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Huge impact.
For people to not be not have to go through that pain, that frustration. You know, I think of this, people that are listening, they have friends, family members, maybe it's them. You know, what is that first step to come in, check you out, and you know, and take those steps to getting their hope back?
Yeah, you know, it just really is just making that appointment. Just make that appointment. We'll have the conversation, and you know, we'll see if it's something that you want to explore. And you know, I like to give realistic time frames and realistic treatment plans.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, for most people, you know, you can expect a couple of months of treatment, and that's surprising to a lot of people. You know, I'll be out and people say, "Oh, I tried acupuncture, it didn't work. Well, how many treatments did you have?" And they'll be, "Oh, I had like maybe two or three," and that doesn't surprise me because two or three treatments is not going to make much of an impact with a chronic serious condition. You know, really the way to make it work is frequency and consistency. So for most people, I need to see them at least 2 to 3 times a week for the first couple of weeks. We're creating those new neural pathways in the brain, and that just takes time.
Time,
It
repetition.
takes time and repetition. You know, it's just like starting a new workout regime. You know, if you come once a week for the next 6 weeks, that's better than nothing. Absolutely. Are you going to make significant inroads into in either your health or you know whatever your goals are? Probably not. Is it better than nothing? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But to make that real difference, you just need that frequency and the consistency. So I think having you know realistic expectations coming in is helpful. It's not you know it's not a miracle. It's not magic. It's we're just we're resetting the brain.
I love it's all about that communication too, in really framing to people what's about. Because I think, again, regardless of whether it's acupuncture or it's insurance or it's whatever industry people are part of, there's so many people that don't want to communicate and want to skip through the process to make it. They just want the business. And so they'll do 3 treatments in order to just get that money for the 3 treatments and hope that somebody then carries on, or, you know, they see that, you know, whatever they're
Yeah.
hoping. But I love how you're just, this is the process. This is what it takes in setting that framing so they know. And because once you set the expectations of people, I think you understand there's an investment to be able to, you have this pain that you felt for however long, especially if it's been a long chronic pain, that it's not going to just change overnight. I don't think that's realistic,
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
especially if they're coming in and they've really lost a lot of hope because it is their last resort. You know, I can't imagine
Yeah.
people thinking that it's going to be done one time.
Yeah, yeah. It does. It takes time. It takes time. It takes repetition. I love it when people come when I'm their first resort. I'm always a little bit
Yes.
surprised
Yeah.
that I'm always really excited
Yeah.
because because then we can really make a difference and quickly. But like I said, most of the time, I'm as acupuncturists, we are the very last thing that people think about.
Well, that's what I'm hoping with this. Again, you're getting out there quite a bit, and you were on the Chamber podcast 2 weeks ago, and getting out there. It's letting people know, because I think it's really different. I don't think we've talked about, there's not really anybody out there doing it. There's very
Mhm.
few options around here.
Yeah, yeah. I think there are a few, but generally speaking, there aren't very many of us.
Yeah. Yep.
There really aren't.
And so it's educating, because a lot of
Yeah,
people, either they've done it maybe a couple of times, or they
yeah,
didn't have the right process,
yeah.
or they don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's it. The people they just don't know um, what's available, what we're able to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So great job getting out and educating people.
Thank you.
I hope this content helps people kind of
Thank you.
get that spotlight and understand, and give people hope, and not have to go through that long, painful process to find it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I just was thinking of another patient that I treated recently that was really gratifying. She was a surgeon, and in surgery they've got to be on their feet, and depending if they're right-handed, they're left-handed, the surgery that they do, they're in the same position sometimes for 12 hours straight. I
Yeah.
mean, it can be absolutely grueling. And she had gotten to the point, she had such bad neck and shoulder pain during surgery. You can't take medications during surgery.
Yeah.
I mean, they're really limited in what they can do to help alleviate that. And she was at the point where she was going to stop doing surgery because it was that bad. And once again, last resort, she came to us, and we were able to get her to the point where she could get through her surgeries again with you know without much pain, and she was able to do it. So she was able to continue saving people's lives,
That's
which was
wow.
really cool.
Empowering the empowerers there.
Yes, and that's what I love. I look at my role as really kind of the support for people, so that I can help them go out and do the great things that they do. Like
That
I just kind of like being in the background and, being able to support what they're doing.
Yeah. And again, it's life changing. You have somebody out there going back into surgery, and like where she was
Yeah.
going to hang it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
so awesome.
Yeah.
Carol, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming down. How
Thank
was it?
you. Great.
All right. Thank you guys. And again, knowing that we are the stories that we tell ourselves, right? And so, guys, listen to these stories, do something with it, and adjust what you think is possible. So, and something that we learned here: get out of your comfort zone, right? Because your best life is on that other side. So, thank you guys, and have a phenomenal week.